Welcome to this walkthrough of Hava automated cloud diagram software. When you first log into Hava, you'll see a dashboard like this. Yours will typically be empty. So the first thing we do is go into Add Environments. And then you see here we've got the opportunity to add either an Amazon, AWS, Azure or Google Cloud set of credentials. The Amazon AWS preferred method is a cross-account role. That way that's the Amazon's best practice connection method. You can of course create a read-only IAM user and then enter the credentials there as well. With Azure, there's a whole bunch of stuff you need to create, which we've got videos for, and then Google Cloud exporting the credentials file will get you connected. Once you're in and connected, you get a dashboard area here. So this lays out all of your environment tiles from your different sources. So across over here we've got different connected cloud accounts or data sources, and then through the top we've got the ability to show all environments, show infrastructure, security diagrams, list diagrams and container views. If we look at list of sources here, we can, if your particular team is only interested in one, then you can essentially just switch off the ones you're not interested in. We'll pick an AWS diagram here. So as you see, once you've connected your cloud accounts to Hava, it automatically polls all of the resource config data and then pulls it back and then renders a diagram laid out in a very logical order. So you've got your gateways coming in through the top here. So we've got an internet, a VPN gateway, customer gateway, and some web application firewall rules through the top that are external. The outside container is a VPC, and then contained within that you've got logical availability zones. So here you've got US East D1, US East 1E, and then you've got your public subnets laid out across the top, and then your private subnets through the bottom. Through the top you've got some different view options you can see here. So we've got both turned off as default, but you can display the names. So each of the names of the resources are then shown on the diagram, or you can display the connections, so you can see the relationships between particular resources. Then on the actual environment itself, without anything selected, you can see your monthly cost estimate for the whole environment, and then if you drop down that menu there, you can actually see the breakdown of what makes up that monthly cost. Also on the diagram external to the VPC, you've got your S3 buckets, for instance. You've got VPC endpoints and then a VPC peering connection. So whatever you've got configured will appear either internally within the VPC or externally. With the VPC selected, you'll see the attributes pane here is contextual, so whatever you have selected at any point in time. So if I select the load balancer, then all of the data pertaining to that load balancer is shown. If I just select the VPC, you'll see there's a number of contextual attributes that come up. So security groups, for instance, so we're looking at the VPC and we can see that there are a number of security groups associated. By hovering your mouse over the particular security group, it highlights on the diagram what resources belong to that security group. So if you can see here, there's a number of EC2 instances and load balancers associated with this demo internal servers. And with network access control lists, if you hover over an ACL, you'll see the different subnets that are associated with that ACL. So the whole thing's completely interactive, selecting on this application load balancer, so it tells you where the traffic's coming from and where it's routing to on the diagram. There are a number of other views as well, so up in this top right hand corner you can select from extended infrastructure view, so that gives a more detailed list with a lot more information about the individual resources. So if you need to drill in and get IP addresses and that sort of thing, that's the view to look at. If you look at the strategy behind laying out the VPC like we do is that it's nice and clean and visually you can see what's going on without having like 1,000 settings trying to be laid out all over the diagram. So what we do is there are a number of resources that aren't visualized, like network interfaces and that sort of thing. So there's a list view. So what the list view does is lists absolutely everything in the config. So we've got sort of volumes, IP groups, storage, network interfaces, and you'll see that again with this view the resources are contextual. So if I select this network interface for instance, then it tells me the name, where it's used, MAC address, IP addresses, subnet that it's used in, security group it belongs to. So all of the resources have deep attributes associated, and we show those to the side of the particular diagram. Another useful feature of the list view is you can sort by different attributes. So if I sort by price and then go descending, so that takes all of our resources through this particular network and then sorts them by descending cost. So you can see the attributes that are making up the bulk of the cost of this particular cloud spend. Another really nice view that your security guys will love is the security group view. So this is very simplistic because it's a demo account. What it shows you is all of your security groups, and then the open ports with the ingress and egress points that traverse that particular VPC. So for instance, if we select this Elasticache services security group, it tells us that it's got a TCP port 112.1.1 on this particular IP address, and then it's also got another port open, and then the connected resources to that security group are these listed down through here, so you can see exactly what's going on with that security group without having to troll through a whole stack of console settings, which who's got time for that. So a number of other things we can do on the diagram. You've got a bit of a 3D view that's going to be really 3D soon, and then we've got export options. So it's all very well having a nice interactive diagram where you can go through and drill into all of the resources, but if you've got some reporting to do, so you might have a PCI compliance audit, or you might have management reports, or you want to do a presentation to a team that's going to start work on the network, then you can produce a set of documentation quite easily. So you can do that by exporting to a number of formats. You've got PDF and PNG, which will literally give you this diagram. You can also take it out to Visio if you want to have a tinker with the presentation, and then you can also export into CSV and JSON if you've got other ways you want to manipulate the data. And then of course you can take the whole layout into a CloudFormation JSON file for rapid duplication of the environment somewhere else. So going back out, so this is a fairly simple AWS environment. If we go back out, let's have a look at a multiple. So not only will it create a nicely laid out VPC, it'll also allow you to pull in multiple data sources from multiple accounts. So for instance, we've got sort of Hava demo and a Hava white VPC on two different accounts, but we've used the search and filter option up here. So we've actually searched on VPC, specified two different VPC parameters, and then it's saved and built a diagram based on those two separate data sources. So we've actually got the two here. Now that can be not just AWS, but you can mix and match GCP and Azure data onto the same diagram. And like all Hava diagrams, once you've created it, then it just continually polls the settings and updates those. So after you've connected your data sources to Hava, one of the best features is the versioning. So every time one of your resources changes, then Hava will detect that, create a brand new set of diagrams, and then store the old version in the version history. So effectively what that means is you can at any point in time compare an old config with the current one. So if you run into problems or something changed and you're not quite sure what's going on, you can look at the older versions and compare to the new to see the changes. So yeah, just invaluable, especially when you're looking to find issues that have cropped up, or perhaps you've been challenged on how a particular configuration was at a point in time through maybe a compliance or insurance issue. So here you have all of the data laid out. So here you have all of the historical data, configurations, and each of these historical diagrams are also fully interactive, so click around. So it's not just a snapshot of the diagram, it's the full configuration history. So if we pop out back to environments, have a quick look at a GCP diagram. So again, you've got all of the resources, you've got the network layout, you've got the subnets, and then particular resources and how they are connected. Also the full version history as it builds. And the same with Azure. Again, you've got laid out by virtual networks and then subnets within the diagram with the usual load balancers, network gateways, and so forth. Again, all with the version history. As resources change, the history gets recorded. Then we have the last view, which is the container view. So here we have all of the ECS service containers laid out through the cluster, and then each of the container services are interactive, so you can click on a task and see exactly what's going on. Within the container. And lastly, Hava has a fully fledged API available that allows you to build calls into your build pipelines to pull back information regarding the current configurations in your current diagrams. So, we've seen it used with Terraform and BuildKite, for instance. You can fire off calls to automatically sync your data sources. You can also use the API to create data sources. If you've got a huge list of accounts, for instance, then you can automate that process as opposed to having to add environments manually, which would be a little bit tedious on a large enterprise account. And lastly, on the website itself, we've got AJ. So we've got a chat available pretty much all the time. It's a real person, not a chat bot. So if you've got any questions or problems, you can hop on chat. You can also email sales@Hava.io with any questions, and you can at any point in time request a chat, or you can arrange a one-on-one demo. So if you want a real good deep dive into the software to see whether it's suitable for your organization, then we're happy to do that as well. So why choose Hava? I guess there's countless reasons that you'd want to accurately document your cloud environments. So typically, Hava was born out of the need to quickly get a grip of client cloud environments. So our consulting firm regularly took on new cloud clients in the consulting space, and what we found was the clients in very rarely had any accurate documentation of what we were dealing with. So the first task was to sit down, dig into the consoles, and then map out exactly what was going on with their environments. So that could take a couple of days, it could take a couple of weeks. One instance it was well over a month to work out what was going on. So we thought there had to be a better way, so we developed it. Internal stakeholder and management reporting, I guess, is a big requirement these days. So when somebody says, we need to, can we get a report to management, exactly what's going on, what the costs are, it allows you to pull the diagrams and then integrate them into reporting, into your reports in a few minutes, not days. So you don't have to whip out Visio or Cloudcraft and then update furiously to find out what's going on. You can just sync up your environments and then export the diagrams. So another big factor in having Hava in your toolbox is the ability to record what's going on. So we discussed in the video walkthrough that we capture environment changes when they happen and then produce a new set of documentation based on the new state of play, and then we record a version of the old. So what you always have on hand are accurate records of how the environment was configured at any point in history. So if you had some sort of challenge come up to say, well, your security wasn't on point at a particular point in time, then you've got the documentation on hand to be able to prove that it in fact was in a fit state, and they've got basically nowhere to go after that. You can visualize your workflow accuracy. So you've got an architect that builds a good network design, then that typically gets turned over to engineers or DevOps to create it. So having, at the end of the day, the ability to visualize what's been built allows both the architect and the project managers the ability to instantly see that what's being built is what was anticipated. So that basically reduces down from hours or days into a few seconds. You can also spot anomalies. So a typical use case with Hava is that once the environments are spun up and people can see exactly what's going on based on, basically we call it the source of truth. So it's the actual config files get visualized, so you can see exactly what's going on. We had one client that after doing that process found a VPC and a large database instance that was just sitting out to the side, not connected, and they said, okay, what's all this about? Dug into it, and it turned out to be an old test environment that had been running for probably 2 years, and it was costing $2,500 a month for a test environment they hadn't touched for like a very long time. So immediately they just deleted it, and they were 30 plus grand ahead for the year. So you're not saying that you've got that situation at the moment, but you never know. So that's a major upside of having visualizing your actual configurations. It also, you can cast an eye over the configuration, then immediately spot weaknesses, like if you've got only one availability zone, for instance, and you want some redundancy. So say Sydney region has an outage, then is your design catering for that fact? So having just a quick visual look at how all the VPCs and subnets are laid out, you'll immediately see whether that's a problem or not. You can also estimate costs. There's one for the bean counters. So across a whole environment, Hava's able to estimate the costs of all of the resources, and it will break that down to a resource level, so you can see the estimated costs of your database instances, your EC2 clusters, and so on. So you'll know straight away once you spin up a new environment what the estimated costs are likely to be at the end of the month. So why use automated diagrams instead of traditional drag and drop? Well, I guess there's a number of reasons. Speed and accuracy, obviously. So drag and drop tools take forever. So you're basically toing and froing from your network consoles, and then mapping out, drawing, making the connections. Then of course you've got to, every time you change a resource, you've got to go back to the manual diagram, update it, do some version control, blah blah blah. So having automatically syncing or manually syncing automated diagrams just removes that. So it just saves absolutely hours and hours and days, and it's massively resource intensive. And if you were like our guys, they've got way better things to do. Also fewer mistakes. So when you're manually putting together a drawing of network topology, it's incredibly easy to make a mistake, drop a resource into the wrong subnet. All sorts of things can happen. So having it automated with no ability to manually manipulate means you're always looking at an accurate representation of what you're running. I covered that before. No manual updates. So Hava polls your cloud config every 60 minutes or so. So if you're doing a whole raft of changes and you want to immediately see what's going on, you can also manually sync the cloud configuration or cloud accounts, and then pull a new network diagram immediately. So that's Hava in a nutshell. If you'd like to grab a free trial, all you need to do is head over to the website. There'll be a big button somewhere that says start a free trial, pick a plan that best suits your organization, and then all of the plans have a free trial period with them, so you can dig in, have a play, and then see if it's right for you. You can also hop on the chatbot with one of our guys if you've got any questions. And also we have a self-hosted enterprise solution, so if you're a bit concerned about having third-party tools connect into your cloud environment, then we can basically duplicate Hava on your network, and then there's no external connections. So we're also happy to have a chat about that. Thanks for your time.